All right, guys, we're going to go through some of your pre-production process, from scripts to the breakdowns to the strips. So this goes over a couple different elements that you're going to have to do on your projects and through every project you produce. These exact roles go to different people. We're not going to worry about that right now, but we're going to look at what the entire process is, which falls to the producing team. So first, selecting your script. Few things you need to think about are, of course, the length. You have some basic, usually external parameters on what you can use for the length of your script. Generally speaking, one page is about 1 minute, and you look at what your total runtime is. Like for PBS, if you're going to do an hour-long program on PBS, it is exactly 56 minutes and 46 seconds long. So you don't want a script that's 120 pages for your target market. Feature films, generally 90 to 140 minutes. There's a lot of leeway there. Different networks have their exact minutes. So a 30-minute show may be 23 and a half minutes. An hour-long show might be 43 and a half or 48 and a half. Just look at what your distribution specs are when you look at your first pass of what can I even do for this? And of course, streaming now, you have just such a different world of lengths, but they still have their formulas. So be aware of where you plan on taking this project when it's done. If you have a short film competition and you know it needs to be under 10 minutes, or if it's a class project and there's certain specs, make sure it matches them. Will you actually have permission and clearance to use the script? Many of you are using scripts you write or someone in the group is writing, so not an issue. But if you're optioning the script, do you have permission from the scriptwriter? Is this script shootable safely for both the cast and the crew, the people behind the camera, the people in front of the camera, and the people around the camera? What is realistic for what you can do on the budget and resources you have to make it look good and be safe? Minors and animals, there's certain release forms. I would just advise stay away from animals for any student projects. For minors, not a big deal. You need to make sure you're shooting around school schedules or have a tutor on set, have parents on set, release form signed, and you do have to file paperwork at least 5 days in advance with the Department of Labor. Not a big deal, just has to be done. So you have to look at, if you have to shoot within 5 days, there's no way you can shoot with a minor. Really, if you have to shoot within 5 days, there's probably no way you can shoot anything. But these are things to think about in your basics of just logistics for a script. Then you can start looking at, why are you even going to make this script? Is the story worth telling? Is this something that you care about? Does it not just meet whatever your class requirements are, whatever your objective is, but do you feel good about the story? What impact is it going to have on the viewer? Especially as Christians, we think about this. What will people get out of your story? What worldview does it represent? Does it align with your worldview? Getting into some of what's in our book, looking at it as a balanced producer. You don't actually, in the real world, make a movie and then hope to sell it. You always have a lead on distribution first. Otherwise, it's a challenge. Let me just say that. Or are you doing this for an educational reason, for learning and for festivals? Make sure whatever you're making matches your goals. Does it fit your brand if you're trying to build up a brand or your company? Does it actually make sense for you to tell this story? So once you have that script, you will need to vet it through me first for class projects. But in general, these are things you should be thinking of anytime, period. Now, once you have your script, this is kind of the two parts of the process. You do your script analysis, which includes tagging the elements, making sure your scene numbers are correct, measuring scene length or telling software do the scene length and numbers for me automatically, generating your breakdown sheet so you see what each scene needs, and building a tentative schedule. That schedule is going to get revised based on a lot of factors. Usually, your biggest ones are what days location and talent are available and what the shot list actually shows. Like, you can estimate without talking to a director how long each scene can take, but you're going to need to work with the director to see what the actual shot list is. Now, at the same time, from your script selection, you may already be working on casting, crewing up and securing resources like those locations. The two processes can kind of go on in harmony, and often you have somebody who is a casting director, somebody who's your production manager working on your crew, or your line producer. You have a location manager working on locations. So you're working on all of these things at the same time, but these are just part of that producing process in pre-production that help you actually have a successful shoot. So let's go over the first part. Now, we did this already in class, but I wanted to give you guys a video on it if you need to remember. You tag your elements. This can be from the caveman colored pencils to select the item in your software and tag it of what it is. I highly recommend using software to do this. Like, I'm going to be showing you guys stuff with Final Draft and Studio Binder. Celtx is a great alternative that is all things in one, and you can do like a monthly subscription. And then you have Movie Magic, which is available in one of the labs downstairs too. So tag your elements. These are the general categories that Studio Binder uses. Make it work with the colors you have. Just make yourself a guide of whatever you're going to do. Circle things. If the thing is implied, I like to write it on the right and then circle it so that I have the right color. Some people like to use highlighters and highlight instead of circling. It's up to you. What you want to do is make sure you have it colored. My preference is start with paper because it forces me to read the script well, and then I do the same thing on software. So I'm comparing my script in front of me to the script on the screen. There's a couple of rules. Set dressing, you usually don't need to include that unless it's something super special. Food is always considered a prop. Only underline something or circle it once per scene. You don't need to do it 5 times, or else you might end up with 5 Uber cars instead of 1 if the communication isn't great. And you got to keep an eye out for items that carry over from scene to scene. So they may not be specifically stated in the script because it just says like as before. So you want to double tag those again in the new scene, or make sure you make a note to go back when you're doing your breakdowns. I like to keep all my notes on the right-hand margin and keep all the information there. Okay, so again, here are those categories. You circle and go. When you are numbering your scenes, you always, on your first shooting script, always just do numerical order. Don't use letters. 1A is for if a scene gets inserted between scene 1 and 2 later, so keep it all numbers. I like it on the left and on the right of the slug. It just helps with my eyes. It's really best to do this automatically in your script writing software so that you don't end up with guesswork. You just have to make sure your slugs are correct in your script writing software. We'll get into revisions later of what happens, of how to insert revisions if there is a new scene added or a scene deleted from a script. Right now, you've got a shooting script, or you have your script that should be locked. Changes now are not so big a deal because you haven't started your pre-production process. You catch errors, fix them now. We speak in length in terms of eighths. So every page has 8/8. So you divide it in eighths. Again, easier with your script writing software because that is automatic. But you want to make sure each page adds up to 8/8, and you speak in terms of like 1 2/8, not 10/8. All right, digital tagging is so much easier. Again, do your first pass on paper, help it get in your brain, but then you use your script writing software to tag the elements. You import that script into scheduling software, or if you're using something like Celtx, you just switch tabs to your breakdown sheets. Then you can generate all of your breakdowns and your strip boards, your day out of days. All of that stuff can be done more organically. And as you use those management softwares, you can put your cast and crew information in and be able to generate call sheets without having to manually type everything in. So I really, really recommend that. Unless your time is incredibly unvaluable to you, please use software. You will not be upset for having done it. And there is a lab with Movie Magic scheduling and budgeting. So you still have to do this in the script writing first, but then you can import it and do it in a much easier manner. All right, so once you've done all your tagging, you're creating a breakdown sheet. So there's one sheet per scene, and each category has a box, and then you have all of those elements in it. So you can write those down for all the different things that you tagged, and those get passed on to the different departments so that they can make them happen. The next part is the strip board calendar. So it's called a strip because they literally were cut in strips originally, and it looks like a strip. So every scene also gets a strip. You want to, once you've imported this in or made your manual strips, and there is an Excel document template that you can use. You put in as much information as you can, where the location is, how long you think it's going to take to shoot it, all of that stuff. Put it in, the characters in it, the cast numbers. Then you do a first pass of organizing. So I usually do it by location, and then I look at day and night and interiors, exteriors. Which order I go in kind of depends on the shoot and what the scenario is for the location. But if you start in that kind of location, then either day, night, then interiors and exteriors, or location, interiors, exteriors, day, night, it usually makes sense. It's a lot easier to start day and move into night than it is to start night and move into day. Interiors, exteriors really depends on your lighting and the situation. When you're doing this and looking at the time that it takes, keep in mind, most professional shoots have 10 hours, and you need to remember setup and teardown time. Indie shoots are 12 hours. Do not plan on exceeding 12 hours. I recommend for student shoots, don't plan on more than 10 and then stop at 12 because you may not have scheduled right. No matter what, you have to stop 6 hours in for a meal break. It is not safe not to do so. Your meal break must be 30 minutes, but realistically, it's always 45 minutes. If it's a walk-away meal, it's always at least an hour. So keep that in mind, and keep in mind your transportation times. Now, this is going to change. This is an evolving document as you look at the shot list, the locations, actual availabilities. So here this is up a little bit closer so we can go through. You see there's the scene number, if it's interior or exterior, the heading and a log line for the scene, if it's day or night, what cast member is involved. So you may want to stack it so you have all your cast in a row and then can cut them and you're not calling people too early. Your shooting location, how long it is, and how long you think it's going to take to shoot. So your shooting time, you're going to be putting that in and estimating it. And then there's the strips for company moves, meals, and your end of day that you'll insert. So then you'll also be working on the next things, the next needs for your shoot, getting the cast, crew, gear, locations, production design, wardrobe, animals, location, vehicles, cars, whatever it is that you need. We'll look at paperwork and other releases a little bit further on, but you want to be thinking about what do you need for your script to actually come to life.